Alright, we here. Another episode of 1K Conversations. I'm joined by another fabulous guest, Tameka. How you doing?
I'm doing well, thank you, Andre. How are you?
I'm good. I'm here. You know, people that might be listening to this might be a week after, but this month has flown by. It's been a weird month for me, honestly. A lot of things have been changing. For me, I'm in school, so it's kind of wrapping up now too. But it's been interesting. I don't know how it's been for you though, but
It's been a busy month, good. I work and I started a program as well. It's real estate actually, so I'm taking that at my own pace, but I'm trying to do it more consistently just so I can get myself on more of a schedule. My work schedule is a little weird. I'm working overnights, and then of course acting is always the underbelly, so that's always there. And I recently secured like further management for myself, so that's been really exciting. But of course, like I said, it's just made everything busier.
yeah, no, I could honestly. For me, I'm the type of guy where it's like I prefer to juggle a lot more than have nothing to juggle, right? But I want to talk to you about the real estate thing because that's something that's big right now.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of people are trying to get into buying houses, get into the market. So tell me a little bit about that. What got you into that?
I just think that it's an important thing for me to understand about the world and life, and a good way for me to build something for myself and for my family down the line. So having that foundation, because I never really was interested in like business or.
I don't think anyone. I'm the same way.
Never took a business class in school.
I don't know.
Never took accounting.
I couldn't even get into business.
Yeah, so
thing.
that was never a thing for me. So and I really like those real estate shows, the house flipping shows, things like that.
There's a couple on Netflix, I think, right? I don't know. You watching any?
Yeah.
Which ones?
Selling the Sunset, I think it's called.
So is it? Oh.
It's more of like
it's like
a
in Cali. Is it in Cali? I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
That one's tough. That one's tough.
And then HGTV too, but yeah, the Netflix ones are really cool.
Okay, yeah. No, that's interesting. I was talking to one of my boys the other day, and they're like, apparently the government's gonna make it mandatory that you get your license for residential housing. Like if you wanted to start flipping and getting into the market, to get into to be an actual real estate agent or whatever, you're gonna have to need that. You know, you're one step ahead of the curve. That's dope. That's dope. I think a lot of people, you know, this pandemic has forced us to really either level up or level down. Really, there was really no staying the same. Because, for me personally, it's like it forced because you can't come out of this situation the same person. It's really weird. So to see you kind of do things like that is really dope.
Thank you.
It's really dope. Yeah. So, talk to me a little about your work. That's interesting.
My job or the acting?
Your job. We're gonna get to the acting after.
Okay. So during this pandemic, like I don't know, I have a really hard time just staying at home and being just like.
Yeah.
My job before the pandemic hit, which is still kind of my job once it opens back up, it's at a fitness center. So I was a fitness coordinator at this place called Pursuit OCR. The best place.
I heard of them.
In
wait,
Toronto.
hold on. That's you consider that a fitness place?
It is.
I swear that's like a park. Yeah, like an obstacle. That's
so
crazy.
Fitness,
it's tough. It's tough.
It falls under that like gym kind of thing. Pursuit was my absolute favorite place to be. 5 minutes from me, but of course because of the regulations and stipulations, it's closed for now, unfortunately. But I still felt like I had to work. I worked at the LCBO. I worked at a grocery store. I worked at a spa. And then I settled on the long-term care home just because the hours were a lot more consistent for me. So there I've been a receptionist and a screener, and the office manager that works there wants to retire, so she's training me for her office manager position as well. That's, of course, not my long-term goal, but that's what I'm doing right now. Working in a long-term care home.
Isn't it nice giving back?
It is. The residents are actually so sweet. I appreciate the ones that come and like speak to me and want to get to know my name. And there's like a sense of camaraderie there because the nurses and the PSWs have been working there for so long with each other, and just seeing them care for other people, it's been a really humbling experience. I've never had a job like this before. Yeah,
it's kind of weird because there's this narrative being painted that, you know, long-term care homes are just corrupt, a lot of bad things going on. I've seen instances of it happening. You see it in the news sometimes. So being inside that field, Have you seen anything like that? Like, what's the environment around there?
No, and I definitely am familiar with that narrative as well. Like I thought that I would walk into something where they were abusive or something.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that that's not the case. I see that the nurses and everyone that's on shifts, like there are 4 floors at the place that I work at, and there are usually regular nurses on each of the floors, and they get used to their residents, but sometimes things switch around and the schedule switches, and it's a new nurse with a different patient, and I don't see them being malicious towards them at all or giving them different treatment because they're not already used to them. So that's been really reassuring, and I love that.
Yeah. Everyone's situation is different with that, so it's good to hear that long-term care homes, there are some different ones, but it is what it is. So just fast forwarding the topic a little bit. You said you're an actor.
I am.
I want to start from the jump. I want to start from like the ground zero.
Zero.
I feel like acting is one of those things where you can start when you're 2 years old, or you can start when you're 20. So it's something that it's creative, obviously. But for you, when did it start?
Ooh, there's like a whole backstory to my acting life. Like the formal acting started the year before COVID hit, 2019, end of 2018, 2019. The reason I wanted to get into acting in the first place, I when I was really young, I was deemed like a gifted child. And so...
Wait, what does that mean?
Like exceptional.
Like in acting or just in general?
Just in general.
Oh, my bad.
Language arts. When I was...
my bad.
When I was like seven, grade 3. They do a test
is
for
it
you.
the EQA test?
No, it's
different.
not EQ. It's different. It's
a
giftedness
How do they
test.
know? Like they're just
like watching my performance in my different classes and things like that.
Yeah.
And so with that, especially coming from like an immigrant family, my parents are Jamaican.
Oh, same, yeah. Yeah.
They from that age were like pushing me into STEM and things like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And I did do well in those things. I ended up having to transfer to a gifted school with a gifted program, and I thought that was the trajectory that my life was going to take. I was pursuing law in high school, and, while I did well, I wasn't applying myself all of the time, so I wasn't doing as well as I could have done. But I've always known that I've loved performing arts. I used to sing in church, which is like a kind of typical story for a lot of people.
I hear that a lot.
And I've been to a whole bunch of different schools, and I think that helped to shape how I present myself. And I think that acting has been a really good outlet for that for me, if that makes any sense at all. I did a couple of like school plays. Most notably in high school, I did Grease, and I was the lead in the 10th
My mom loves
grade.
that. My mom loves that movie.
It was so much fun. It was I think the catalyst for me.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I liked singing, so the musical part of that was already there. But like just being on stage, like Broadway is a dream of mine. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I was pursuing law in high school, and I thought I was going to get into something really academic like that. So my first 2 years post-secondary were spent in university. I went to Guelph Humber first, and I transferred to York.
What'd you take?
I did media communications at York, and I was looking at the justice program at Guelph Humber. But when I went to York, it went into lockdown, which was so annoying.
Oh man, I swear they went into lockdown like 25 times that year.
So
That's
many
crazy.
times.
Yeah.
But one of the classes I was in was acting for non-majors. Wow. And that teacher suggested to me to go into the program.
Get in there.
Do
you remember it was a guy or girl?
It was a guy. It was
remember
an older white man. I don't remember his name.
Shout out to that guy. Shout out to him. That's crazy.
Yeah. So he suggested Humber's acting for film and television program to me. I got a couple letters of recommendation, and I did my audition, and I got in for the 2015 school year. It's
crazy that you mentioned that Humber program. We actually featured a panel, not a panel, but a few guests on a TV show called Tall Boys. And they went to that. Yeah, if you listen, the comedy program. They're from there too. And we also had another guy, Nima. He went to that same program. Really? He's a comedian. Yeah, I was like, it comes full circle. It's a close knit community, you know. So shout out to those guys over at Humber. But I have a question though.
Okay.
You know, for me being an athlete, I play games. Sometimes I get nervous. You know, no matter how many games I play, I always have that nervous, tingling feeling before a game. You know, for you, do you get that? Do you ever have those shakes? Do you ever have those ramblings? Like, how's it feel?
Absolutely. Absolutely. All the time. But I just have to remind myself that I know that I'm in the position I'm in because somebody wanted me there and someone saw something in me to portray this character or, you know, say this line or whatever the case is. So I think the other side of that is learning to not doubt myself.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Talk a little bit about that.
Whew. Kind of going back to what I was talking about my parents being from Jamaica. I don't know how many other people feel this, but you know, creative paths are not always supported. Like that's
Rarely.
conversation.
There's a few. You know, every family is different, obviously, but a lot of Caribbean families and African, I think a lot of it's just it's STEM or it's something school related, right? So.
And so I felt bad, and I just kind of, the question that I was always asking myself was, what right do I have to feel like I can be doing this? Like, am I even going to be good at it? This is not something that I was, I guess, deemed exceptional in initially, like I was with everything else. So yeah, there was a lot of self-doubt there, but I'm glad that I overcame that because like I'm so proud that I decided to veer off into a different path because this is not something that was initially supported. Yeah,
I heard something the other day. I forgot who said it, but they drew the comparison of a lot of times we want to please our parents. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So like if they told you to go in STEM, it's like, okay, you're going to do STEM, but for them. Yeah. And in a sense, it could be for the wrong reason. You'll find a career and then you'll end up actually hating your parents for, you know, I wouldn't say force, but kind of provoking you to do something, right? Whereas you follow your passions, you follow your path. They might not like it at first, but when they see it kind of unravel and kind of actually fulfill itself, then they're like, oh, I see what you did there. You know what I mean? So that's interesting that you followed your path because it's a risk. It's a risk, right? Like, how did you feel taking it? That's crazy.
It's been like unstable.
Yeah.
To be quite honest, like acting is not something that you can go into and feel like you're gonna, you know, shoot up immediately. Like that, yeah. Before the pandemic, my agent would send me audition requests like the night before. Mm-hmm. And I would have to think about my job, like who's gonna cover my shift. Yeah. Like how am I gonna get into character for this role? How am I gonna memorize my lines for this role? And sometimes, like, you know, I've had a few successes, but for those successes, there are like 50 no's behind each of them.
Yeah, really, yeah. And not a lot of people see the no's.
No.
They're only seeing the yeses.
And it's like the in-person auditions, but also the self-tapes, like the tapes that you have to do at home. Not as good as the setup that you guys have here, but a setup like this at home for my tapes. Yeah. And just the work that goes into that, like having people in the background and, you know, knowing the right time to tape. And
what's the most recent role, like a tape role that you've done?
I don't know if I want to spoil that. There's this film.
Okay, actually, no, don't even spoil this. Okay. What's the most recent one that you've done that is already out or that you've already been in?
To be honest, I haven't booked anything in 2020 at all.
Okay.
Which is, you know, the pandemic.
Yeah.
Has kind of hindered that for me. At the end of 2019, I booked a Lifetime film, which was really cool, actually. It was a lot of fun. We shot that in Hamilton, and I played a cheerleader, but like a rude cheerleader. I kicked my best friend off the team. Like, she was the head cheerleader, and I kicked her off. So that was a lot of fun. And that was an in-person audition, actually. Oh, you went in? Okay.
Is it hard to separate the boundaries between acting and real life? Because a lot of times you're acting with someone, you might do something foul, but you know, as soon as the scene is done, are you like, oh, it's good? Hey, how you doing? Yeah. How is it?
Yeah. Sometimes, like, I don't want, like, that specific film that I just mentioned. The girl and I became really good friends. Shout out to Kira. And she was the one that I was kicking off the cheerleading team, whatever. And I did not want to be mean to her at all because I love her. But you know, at the end of the scene when they cut, we already know what it is.
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories about, you know, relationships offset, and it's interesting because a lot of them are good, but some of them are bad. Some of them hate each other. It's kind of weird. So Um, do you have like a worse auditioning experience, or like something that just you always keep in the back of your mind just because it's something that is like
That didn't go well.
that you just want to forget about? Yeah.
Ooh, I didn't know my lines for. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say it. There's a show. It's already out. It's called October Faction. Did not know any of the lines for my audition for that.
Like you just forgot it, or
I didn't know it. Like it was just too. Like I think I just didn't sleep the night before, and it was like a couple pages, like maybe
Deep.
three scenes or something like that. Didn't know any of the lines. They had a specific like wardrobe recommendation for the character I was going out for. I didn't have that on like proper. It was a hijab, and I didn't have it on properly. And this was the first time I was auditioning for this person, and it was just like a bad first impression overall. And I feel like I didn't see her for another like 4 or 5 months, which is a big deal.
That's
like,
a long time. Yeah.
So I'll never forget.
What are some tips? What are some tips that you have for auditioning? Because I know there's a lot of people in the creative scene trying to get into acting. Because you just said one thing where you didn't get a lot of sleep. I don't know if that might be one of them. But what do you if you had to sum it up in like 5 or 4 tips or advice to give to people? What would you say?
Breathing is like a huge thing. Like sometimes you don't even realize that you're like holding your breath when you're doing something.
Crazy.
That can really impact like the end kind of not goal.
The product.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So breathing is huge. Understanding the character for me is a big one, because like sometimes like they'll keep the camera rolling after you're done saying like the lines on the page, but maybe they want to see like what else you can do. So really embody who that character, who you think that character is or can be, because maybe they'll see something in that. Confidence is a huge thing, and I think that maybe kind of plays into the breathing part.
Yeah.
But even if you don't end up with the role, go in and do your best so that when you come out, you know that you've done your best. Like it's not like you gave them half-assed work.
How many like people are usually auditioning?
It depends. Sometimes the breakdown will say, female, black, between 23 and 27, and there's only so many people
that fit that demographic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But sometimes it's like female 23 to 27 open ethnicity. Yeah. So it'll be a whole bunch of different girls. Sometimes they say like very specific things like athletic build or whatever. So again, only so many people. But on top of like being in the room and auditioning, there are some people who get their things sent in like self-tape. So there's stuff that you don't see.
A little different. Yeah. I always feel like auditioning, a lot of it has to, like for me, this is how I feel. A lot of it has to do with how you actually relate to the character. Like I know some people or actors in real life that are almost identical to the character. And maybe that's why they brought him in. I don't know really, but do you feel like that kind of helps? Like has some of the roles that you played, are they kind of actually like your personality? Did it help to even share similarities, or was it always just completely something you had to adapt to?
I feel like what I've been getting is just like cute teenager, and I'm far from a teenager now. So it's just been interesting to see how people perceive me and like what I've booked so far versus like who I think I am. Like there was this the role was kind of like a bitchy secretary. I don't know why, but I wanted that role so badly.
I feel like you're liking these bitchy roles, eh? That's crazy.
A little bit.
That is crazy. No, I'm saying.
But I've only booked teenage roles so far, and I wanted that one so badly because I think it was one of the first ones that was like a grown person. And I feel like I want people to see me as a grown person because I'm grown. Yeah. But yeah.
I've seen some roles with guys that are like 40 playing teenagers. I'm like, how does that? 2 + 2 still equals 4, right? Something's not adding up, but that's crazy. So I want to talk about your most recent experience, or most notable experiences. A lot of them are working with Netflix for films like Titans. That's one of my favorite shows. And then Ginny and Georgia.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that, because I am still a fan of Titans. I love the DC comics and stuff. So when I saw you in that, I'm like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? That's insane. So first, talk about that Titans experience. How was that? How was the auditioning? The cast?
Yeah, Titans was one of my first auditions, actually. And I didn't get the role that I had initially gone out for, but they liked me, so they brought me in for... I think I had auditioned for 2 other roles, but I didn't get either of them, so they brought me in for Ariel, which was the character that I was. It was really, really cool. The set is actually just by, like, Kipling Station.
Oh, it's in Toronto. That's crazy. That's crazy. I was just there.
Yeah. I don't know if you know the show The Boys. The Boys is also...
Yeah, The Boys was out there too?
Same set.
I swear, I heard something like that. I swear they were recording in Hamilton too.
They have, like,
everywhere, right?
But,
yeah.
like, the insights... The set was incredible. And just, like, working with everyone that I worked with that day, from cast to crew, everyone is just so welcoming and inviting, and it was really cool because that director was a Black woman, and I just love seeing that.
Yeah, literally, I was talking about it on my last episode with this girl. Her name is DJ Rose Gold. She's a big
cool.
DJ. Yeah, so we were talking about this representation and with Black women. I think that needs to be said more, but not only said, but it actually needs to be done. So to see that type of representation, did that help in any way?
Absolutely, because I feel like if they're giving me direction, like, they're not giving me direction from a place of, like, I'm higher than you. It's more like,
this is what I've done.
Yeah.
You can kind of see how I've done it.
Exactly. So it's inspiring. It's heartwarming. It's a whole bunch of different things, and it makes me really, really happy to be on those particular sets because I feel like I'm seen.
How was, like, the day-to-day recording with those guys? Like, how was it?
It was a lot of fun. They're such funny people, and I'm so proud to have been part of the cast with these people because, like, you know, some of them have a whole bunch of experience and some of them have, like, not as much experience like myself. And so I think that it's really cool that they saw something in all of us that was, like, what they needed for their show and this experience and the chemistry and just being in, like, the green room with them and, like, doing stuff not at work with them. So much fun. Yeah,
that's awesome. That's awesome. So, like, it's funny because me seeing it from the outside, I see the show, I see the finished product, but as an avid fan, I don't get to see the insides of it, right? So it's kind of cool to, you know, sit down with someone that has really. What was because now you're with Ginny and Georgia. That's a very popular Netflix show going on right now. I'm pretty sure a lot of our listeners have tapped in or saw it, but what was your experience there? How was that?
It was really great.
Yeah.
I'm thinking back to my audition, and I had auditioned for this particular casting director a few times, so we had a little bit of a rapport. I went into the audition room, and, like, you see when you have something in your throat and you have to, like, that happened, but not when I was introducing myself or when we were saying hi or whatever. This was during my audition, and I was like, okay, so I didn't get it because I felt like I messed up because of that throat thing. I think I got the call for my character the next day. So
you felt bad about audition
so
and you actually didn't call back.
Whatever, I didn't even get it.
I feel like we're our own worst critics sometimes. It's crazy.
Yeah, so that was cool. I booked it July of 2019, I believe. And then we started in August. And again, the school that we shot at was right up the street from where I used to live. So before Rexdale, I was living on Jane and Lawrence. And so the school that we shot at was right beside Falstaff.
Oh, yeah.
Not sure if you're familiar with
it. I used to hoop out there,
Yeah, I used to do swimming lessons out there, so it felt like a full circle.
That's a legendary community center. Yeah.
So cool. First day was amazing. I got to see all of these people. Everyone was just, again, so welcoming. I had a Black hairstylist, which was super important to me because I've been on projects in the past where, like, the hairstylist,
they don't know what's going on in it. There's no
at all. So,
and
even wild. Like outside of the hairstylist that was on the show with me, like the other hairstylist definitely knew what they were doing because, like, she wasn't there for one of the days, and they knew what it was.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like, just want to go back to the hair? Do you ever tell them not to touch your hair, or is there ever a time where, like, I'll just do it myself, or is it always just okay? I'll sit down and like.
So like I said, in the past, I've had experiences where like they just did not know what they were doing.
It's crazy.
And like I kind of expected it going in.
Yeah.
So I'm so grateful for what I had on Ginny and Georgia, because they definitely knew what they were doing. But I just knew from the beginning that based on like the questions they were asking me, because they would reach out and be like, "Hey, Tameka, so excited to work with you. What do you use in your hair?" And I'm just like,
oh, so really they ask you first. That's what's up. Yeah.
But for one in particular, like she wanted me to wear a wig. What type of wig?
What type of wig?
She showed me pictures and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I got there and I didn't get there. She was coming from somewhere else. We were shooting in Hamilton, and the night before or something, she was just like, "I'm so sorry, like I forgot my wigs. Do you have anything?" And I'm just like, "Aren't you supposed to be the hairstylist?" So I brought my own stuff, and then she was like I had already put it on, because I'm just like,
hold on. So she's getting paid to ask you
exactly.
to bring the, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. That checks out.
So yeah, it's not always great experiences, but like I knew from then she wasn't going to know what to do. But I also didn't want to be that person who was like a diva on set. So I kind of just let her do what she had to do. But she was just like, if this is the hair, she was just like she wasn't actually doing anything.
She was just there just to look like she's doing something.
Yeah. So that was disappointing. But like I said, I hope going forward I have better experiences in regards to hair and makeup. But Ginny and Georgia was it, like the best hair and makeup experience I've ever had.
So obviously you acted in the show. You saw the whole series. Does it feel weird still to see yourself on TV?
It's so strange.
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, damn. Is that me? Like,
my cousin posted. She was. I don't know which shop she was at, but she just posted earlier today. Me on the screen at the shop, and I'm just like, that's so strange. Like, what if I were to walk in?
You know what I mean? They see you. They see the. It's like, oh, okay, that's what's up. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy. So I want to talk about just different roles, because you've played various roles throughout your career thus far. What's your process from transitioning to one to the other? You know what I'm saying? It's tough, because you become so attached to a character. This is a character you're playing for a whole season or numerous seasons, and then you have to find out that you're playing a completely different show, completely different character with completely different cast. Like, how do you switch your brain from this mode to that? Like, what's your process with that?
Something that really helped that we did a lot of in school was writing out like the who, what, where, why, when for each of the characters. So doing that at the like auditioning stage, that's really helpful, because you go in immersing yourself into this character's like entire world. Like, it may not be written on the page, but you know that this happened to your character 5 years ago, and that's why maybe she said this line like that, or maybe she acts this way with certain people, or whatever the case is. So, fully embodying the character in the best way you know how, so that you can give them everything, as opposed to just giving them what's on the page, because that's what maybe some people are going to be doing initially going into the audition room.
So that's crazy, because a lot of times with transitioning roles and different things, like for me, I always relate things to basketball and athletics, because that's just who I was and who I've been around. So with me, the way I look at it is like you play a good game, what's next? You're always thinking what's next. You're never really staying in the present moment, which has its pros and it has its cons, but it allows you to transition and be ready for whatever's next. So it's interesting to see the differences between acting and, I guess, sports in that sense. But that's nice. I feel like with acting though too, you said it earlier, it was never a guaranteed thing. It was never a for sure thing. You went into something that you didn't really know would pay off, right? What were you thinking those times? You know what I mean? Like, what was going on up here?
I know. So like I said, I did 2 years post-secondary in a program that was not acting at all. And honestly, this is a little bit cynical. I was just like, if I'm going to graduate from this program that I absolutely hate and end up with no job, because a lot of people complain about like not getting a job after spending all this time in post-secondary. I was just like, I feel confidence in myself enough to know that I'll land on my feet working
whatever it is,
something But if I'm gonna if I'm gonna graduate from a program and not get a job, I might as well be doing something that I like doing.
That's some real shit. I think it all comes down to just betting on yourself. You know, that's some real shit. A lot of times, like you're saying, a lot of people finish and graduate school and then not have a job or not have a for sure. I think with anything, there's never a guarantee with anything, right? But there's this narrative that's being painted where it's like if you go to STEM or if you take STEM and you go to school, like you're for sure good. You're for sure gonna make six figures. You're for sure gonna do this, and that. But that's not always the case, you know. But with acting, it's the same way. You might pursue that, but it's not always the case. So, like you're just saying, confidence was big, right? You're betting on yourself, and it's paid off thus far. So that's awesome, though. But
thank you.
So I know we're in a pandemic. You said you haven't really been too active.
No.
You know? So what's your thought process right now? Where are you heading?
I feel like this is an industry that people are still going to like wholeheartedly support regardless.
Yeah.
So I still feel like this is something that I want to continue giving my all to. I mentioned earlier to you that I'm taking a program, and I think that that's also something that's not really like a plan B at all for me. That's something that's always going to be there as well.
Yeah.
But I didn't do this for 2 years to stop when something like this happened.
Yeah.
So moving forward, like, and especially because I've expanded my team of representation recently. I don't think that those people, like being in the industry as long as they've been, think of this as a huge setback. Like, of course, the pandemic is going to affect so many different facets of everyone's lives. But the fact that, like, I'm still getting auditions and still, people still want to see me for their different projects is a huge confidence booster. And it's huge for me in the regard that, this is something that that has longevity.
Yeah, it has purpose. It has longevity.
Yeah.
It's key. I like how you mentioned that the program that you started, it's not necessarily a plan B, but it's there on the side.
For sure.
That's something that I can relate to, especially within sports. A lot of us, like as an athlete, a lot of us, we played this game our whole life. A lot of us were born into it, and that's all we were surrounded with. And so we only see this tunnel vision type goal, right? We never really plan for other things on the side. We never really go into different endeavors. We never really prepare for life after our sport. And for me, it would be basketball. But I like how you just mentioned that you have your own program. You're getting into real estate and things like that. So that's interesting because it's not necessarily a plan B. People look at plan Bs like it's just this toxic, like, oh, you don't believe in yourself.
Yeah.
You know better. You know what I mean? But that's not the case. You're preparing yourself for what's happening after.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? That's just about, like you were saying, betting on yourself and being confident. So that's amazing. That's amazing. But
thank you.
So I want to touch on one last thing before we wrap this up.
Okay.
I always like to ask, people in your position, you started at ground zero, but you must have had someone by your side. Who were your influences in the room that pushed you to where you are right now?
I have a really good friend named Melanie, and Melanie is also like a very creative person. She's a singer, actually. Her handle is Melodious if you guys are interested in following her on Instagram.
I'll drop that. I'll drop that right here.
But yeah, she's always so supportive with. I've known her since I moved to Rexdale, so I was like 11 or 12, and I think like you can know things about yourself, but having someone on the outside of you see things about you and encourage things in you is so important and so integral. And I think that she's definitely always been that for me. Like, she didn't go to the same, like after high school we went to like took different paths, but she was always there as like a huge support and encouragement. So.
Do you think you'd be where you are right now without her?
I don't know. Because like I said, she's a singer herself. She's a very creative person. Yeah. And I think seeing some of that in her helped to push me further into the direction of fully pursuing.
Yeah, creativity breeds creativity. I think when you're around people that are in your field, you love to. It kind of bounces off of you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like for me, my co-host Alex, he's a creative guy himself, so that energy kind of bounces off. So for you, it's nice to hear that. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. So on that note, you have any last words or anything you'd like to tap in or?
Thank you so much for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure.
Really, really cool. It's been really cool just talking about this experience because I don't think I've gotten a chance to really do this too much. So I really appreciate it.